I believed that if I made a sourdough, all of Bombay will love it.
पाव छोड़कर मुंबई sourdough खाएगा. Selling sourdough when sourdough was not quite the rage it is right now. Why sourdough? Why the baker's dozen?
Sneh, who's my husband and co-founder, and I got together saying, let's start a business. We were not really sure which industry. Someone said, कि यार इंडिया में अच्छी bread नहीं मिलती. Now the question came, none of us knew how to bake.
So you decided to become a baker because you wanted to start a baking business.
Yes. So a lot of people think it's the other way around. It's not.
First decided कि हमें business करना है.
Yes.
And then went out to figure what is the business.
Yes.
How many ideas did you look at approximately?
The whiteboard at one point had anything between 180 to 210 ideas.
Very large FMCG players are entering this game with their forks and knives ready. Are you going to be able to compete or are you going to get acquired?
Startup like ours has its own DNA. For us to be able to command a price point from a consumer because they trust us, this is something a lot of legacy players, even if you throw money at the problem, you can't solve it. One has to be profitable always.
Proper Gujarati entrepreneur. And profit किधर है? A bakery brand that started as a D2C, direct-to-consumer story, worth over 100 crores in top line, total valuation closer to 500 crores. Quite a feat and quite a delicious one at that, Aditi. Welcome to The Disruptors.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so this is an interesting story because to a lot of people, say in the Western region and in Mumbai, this is a brand that everyone knows, started here, originated here.
Yes.
As selling sourdough when sourdough was not quite the rage it is right now.
Very
but
true.
you are now available pan-India in major cities?
Yes, we're present in about 33 to 38 cities pan-India.
Okay, so let's start with how this all began. Why sourdough? Why the baker's dozen?
I'm talking about the year 2012 where Sneh, who's my husband and co-founder, and I got together saying, let's start a business. We were not really sure which industry, but we said, let's go out there and explore. And we met about close to, I think, 60 odd people from different industries, someone in pharma, someone running an old age home, someone running a restaurant. And we would ask them, can you narrate your story? And at the end of the story, please let us know a gap in your industry where two young people like us could see an opportunity to start business. In one of these discussions, and this was like a by the way comment, someone said, कि यार इंडिया में अच्छी bread नहीं मिलती. This was not supposed to be a business idea. I think we were eating some naan and saying कि यार ये naan अच्छा नहीं है. It was like a reaction like that. And we had a whiteboard in our office where we would write these business ideas. And we would say, yeah, this is very true because you travel the world and you eat this amazing breads. And in India, you're still eating unhygienic, dirty, square bread. Multigrain to tab tha bhi nahi. It was more like white and brown bread. And we thought this was really, really interesting. Now the question came, none of us knew how to bake. He came from an MBA background. I came from a psychology and HR background. Dur tak, hospitality, food, baking, cooking, nobody knew. But we've always believed that whichever industry we would have gone in, one of the founders had to have a strong technical backing in it, which meant one of us had to go and learn. And I was like, yes, I want to go and learn. I'm a let's say, a learner for life.
So you decided to become a baker because you wanted to start a baking business.
Yes. So a lot of people think it's the other way around. It's not.
So that's a bit of a risk because cooking is sometimes, it's not a skill everyone can pick up. Not everyone is good at it. A lot of people can go to culinary school, not everyone's good at it. वो हाथ में जादू होना चाहिए.
So there is a slight difference over here too. I'm not sure I was trying to be a chef. The whole idea was, let us go and do a culinary course and, we become managers, as well-informed managers kind. It is only once I went to New York to the culinary school, and I think it was in my third or fourth day when I was baking a loaf of a French sourdough, where andar dil se ek awaaz nikli ke your purpose in life is to bake bread. And once you find your purpose in life like that, then there is no stopping what you're doing. And I also feel that I had great chefs who were teaching me. And when you learn from a guru like that, it's not recipes and techniques that you learn. What you learn is love and passion and honesty and doing justice to the product no matter what. And those 2-3 months when I was in New York, that was transformation. And instead, before going to New York, our business plan was we will start a bakery, which has a bread and a cake range, which is what most people think of a bakery to be. When I went there, I fell in love with bread. I did not fall in love with cakes. I did some culinary courses in cakes and it was just not speaking to me. So I remember writing an email back to my family saying, I love bread. Hence, we are going to start a bakery that sells bread. Cakes, abhi nahi, baad mein. And when I came back, like you mentioned, we started sourdough at a time when sourdough didn't exist. Sourdough has existed for hundreds of years, just not in India.
No, it wasn't cool.
It wasn't. It
didn't. It existed, but it wasn't. The cool go-to
exactly.
high-end
it also
healthy
wasn't
alternative.
accessible. And we've been doing things like sourdough in our daily Indian kitchens. Jab hum dahi banate, it's a very similar philosophy to what dough is. When we make idli dosa, it's a very similar philosophy. So we understand fermentation. We understand using a day-old dahi to make a new one. So Indian homes understand this, but they were not using this sensibility in bread. And I feel when you're young, you're also a little bit foolish when you start a business. And that foolishness and naiveness is so important. Like you must retain that. Because I fell in love with sourdough and I believed that if I made a sourdough, all of Bombay will love it. There was no math out there telling me that that is true. But I just believed and I used to tell Sneh कि यार Sneh मैं बनाऊंगी ना पूरा बॉम्बे खाएगा तू चिंता मत कर.
पाव छोड़कर मुंबई sourdough खाएगा.
But that happened. And when it didn't happen easily, but it happened because when we opened our first store in March 2013 in Prabhadevi, we were the only ones in Bombay making sourdough. And what we did differently is, so a lot of people think sourdough is these long baguettes and traditional oval loaves and all. We brought in this sourdough in our daily bread. So we make our whole wheat sandwich bread out of sourdough. Instead, you mentioned pav. One of the products we launched in August 2013 was a sourdough pav. Because you can't get more French than a sourdough and you can't get more Bombay than a Ladi pav. And we said, why don't we marry these two? And I feel it's this technical sensibility my chef built in me, where he said, don't go after recipes and techniques. There is an Indianness to India. Retain that. There are techniques in the French culinary world. Incorporate that. And that is what Bakers Dozen has been doing, where we take French techniques but make it extremely local.
I want to explore this dynamic a little bit.
Yes.
You started this by talking about how you and your husband first decided कि हमें business करना है.
Yes.
And then went out to figure what is the business.
Yes.
How many ideas did you look at approximately?
We had narrowed down to about 8 or 9, but the whiteboard at one point had anything between 180 to 210 ideas.
Do you have a picture of this whiteboard?
I don't think we do. I so wish we did, yeah.
With 210 ideas narrowed down to 8 and 9, and then you happen to fall in love with sourdough, so then that's the idea. And how did you two meet?
So that's an interesting story. My father is a visiting faculty at IIM Ahmedabad teaching entrepreneurship. Sneh was his student in the year 2009. He'd picked up his course called Zem at that point. And Dad has this habit of getting students over for like dinner, lunches, making it a more casual interaction. During one such interaction, I was down from England. Like I had a university summer break. I was down for my summer break, and he'd come over for dinner. And I think it was a little bit of love at first sight.
So basically, आपके husband ने professor की बेटी को पटा लिया.
बिल्कुल.
How did your father feel about this?
So Dad has always adored Sneh. So, and I think we were quite open about that. I like him and he likes me from day one. So he was like, listen, ये तो मेरा student है, so everything's good and safe over here.
Yeah, he listened to me.
Because my mom fell in love with Sneh from day one. So I think she adores him even more than I do. And I think vice versa. I think he adores her more than he adores me.
Okay. So this dynamic is working. You start off with sourdough bread. You have an initial seed capital. Where is this coming from? And then you're starting a D2C business at a time when that's not necessarily the norm, where you're going out and talking to the consumer directly. Right now, niche brands that talk to the consumer directly is the biggest growth factor. That was not the case necessarily in 2013.
Yes, but what we were doing was not very disruptive in sense of the D2C thing. See, what we were doing disruptive is that we were making bread and we'd put up a shop to sell only bread. This was very weird because usually bread comes in crates, it goes in thelis, it goes on little, offline trade stores. We had decided that we can have a store dedicated only to bread, which was very, very unique. The reason why we chose this model, nothing else, is go back to 2012. Really, what other way was going to be there to build a brand? If I'd made a product and I'd put it in, let's say, a store at that point, like let's say a Nature's Basket, I would not have been able to build the brand that we were doing. We wanted full control over our inventory, our narrative. We wanted to talk to consumers. So I remember our Prabhadevi store used to open at about 7:30 in the morning. And I used to empty the breads from the crates and put them up. And although officially opening time is 8 a.m., someone would walk in their night suits or pajamas and say, "Ye wali bread hame de do." So, that entire customer interaction that happens when you have your own store, a big part of our learning came from there.
But you moved on from there.
We moved on from there for two reasons. We started with our own stores, which we at that point thought we would continue forever. But ours is a very grocery product, right? You wanted it in your grocery basket, which means it has to be very easily accessible. So even in 2013-14, we were selling in Nature's Basket, a Big Bazaar, a Food Hall, a Heiko. At that point, we were only in Bombay, so these sort of stores, because consumers said, listen, I love your bread, but I can't always come all the way to Prabhadevi to pick it up. So can you be available at the grocery store in my building? Or I usually do my grocery shopping at Heiko. Can you be available like that? Which is the same logic we used in 2020, 2021 when quick commerce started. Because consumers started shifting to quick commerce. So we said, let us be available wherever the consumer is buying these items from.
How much of your sales are coming from quick commerce right now?
Quick commerce is close to between 80-85% of our total sales.
Wow.
Yes.
So you are a very targeted product. Your customer is premium.
Yes.
Likes sourdough, maybe health conscious, and doesn't mind paying more.
We are trying to change that narrative also a little bit. Now, initially what happened is we were coming up with very exclusive breads. That means there was a certain very premium clientele who was able to pay. Over a period of time, something that we picked up on is that are we being too elitist by saying that only if you earn this well do you deserve to eat better? And that's not the motivation I had when we started the Baker's Dozen. Like I said, I just wanted to feed all of Bombay bread. If they want to pay, they can pay. If they want free, that's also okay. So what we started doing was developing a range of SKUs which went from a low price point to a high price point. And the whole idea is anyone who wanted to eat better, whether it was bread or cake or cookies, didn't matter how much they earn, they should be able to come to the Baker's Dozen and find something good for themselves over there. And that's really the way we think of our entire product range.
No, having said that, it is premium. Sourdough is premium. I mean, what a loaf of bread costs and what your bread costs, what regular cookies cost and what your cookies cost.
I will further differentiate this. If you buy, let's say, our 4 grain, that's priced 200 plus. It is extremely premium. But if you buy our 60 rupee whole wheat bread, which is the same price as what a mass player would have, that also has sourdough in it. So someone who's choosing not to spend 200 rupees and wanting to spend only 50, 60, 70 rupees on a loaf of bread, they will still get all the benefits of a sourdough. So that is what we are able to do. Where we are charging a premium, if we are, let's say, 20, 30, 40% higher, we are also giving that much of a value add. Like our products will have zero maida. Our cakes are, like our banana bread is actually made from bananas. We don't use any essence in it. When we make dark chocolate cookies, we put lots of chocolate. So any additional that we're asking from a consumer, we're more than enough justifying that. Listen, ye hamari justification, and consumers know that, which is why they're willing to pay for it.
What are the lessons of being in the food business, and especially trying to be a niche product, but then reaching a larger audience base? Because you need to keep that quality control in place.
Exactly. So I feel the biggest challenge for us has been the founder needs to be very clear about the vision that you started with. We wanted to always make really high quality products, whatever we were going to do, whether we started our journey from bread or moved on to cakes, cookies, we always wanted an authentic, high quality product. Now, I understand India is price sensitive, so right from day one, we said we will not import any ingredients. Everything has to be locally sourced. If you think of making a French sourdough with Indian flour, it's extremely tricky to get that right. To get the same taste and texture that you would get in Paris over here using Indian ingredients is very difficult. So we've always believed that let's be a bit price sensitive like that. Another thing that we've done over a period of time is have SKUs at different price points. So like we recently launched the Zero Maida donut cake because what we were doing for the past 10 years, we had large format products. So it's a loaf of bread, it's a big piece of cake. So that means an entire family has to eat together. Now we're doing more on-the-go packs. So our donut is a one-time portion size. We are launching protein chips next week, which is like a one-time portion size. So we're also going in that and becoming more price sensitive. And where, because of the scale we are at, we're able to develop economies of scale to be able to give consumer really high quality product, but at a far more affordable price.
Now, here's the tricky bit. When, you know, because you've been around now for some time, about 11, 12 years, and you've had a head start in being health conscious, premium, XYZ. Now, all of your mass, very large FMCG players are entering this game with their forks and knives ready. They're acquiring companies left, right, and center because they've realized that this is where they need to be. Are you going to be able to compete, or are you going to get acquired?
So there are 2-3 things. There are different segments in India. The way we define it is there's a premium and there's a masstige and then there's mass. We are still playing between the premium and the masstige. We've not been able to go to mass because right now we feel we will not be able to do the same justice to the product quality if we go at a mass level. Second, I think when you have legacy players, they have their own DNA. And a startup like ours has its own DNA, and you can't always buy the other person's DNA. For us to say we are product first, we want high quality, for us to be able to command a price point from a consumer because they trust us, this is something a lot of legacy players, even if you throw money at the problem, you can't solve it. So everybody has their own DNA, which is why this does not, it does not scare us or intimidate us.
So has any legacy player reached out, and if they do, what would be your response to acquire?
It really depends what is the future that you are thinking, and we are thinking of a future of continuing Baker's Dozen on the kind of ethos we are at. That is something there is no way we are diluting. And yes, if we do it ourselves, it might take a bit longer, but we are very comfortable having that control. Because product quality pe na control in-house hamesha strong hona chahiye.
So how on site are you? How involved are you? To what extent do you micromanage what happens? Because I now know your facilities moved to Ahmedabad.
Yes.
You needed more space. You moved out of Mumbai. Now the headquarters and the production facilities in Ahmedabad. How much do you manage to control everything that's happening there?
Now we have much better systems. So about 6 years ago, everything had to be micromanaged by me, which meant if I'm there, it's good. If I'm not there, it's not good. And that is something we very proactively changed in the past 6 years. And the team that we built in Ahmedabad, especially for our manufacturing, is a very solid team. We moved to Ahmedabad in 2018. We are 7 years into that factory. 80% of the people who are still with us started from day one. And I feel that entire love, passion, stickler for qualityness that I have, that has translated into a big part of the team. And everything's very system driven now. So we still do make everything is handmade, and which is the big challenge. How do you make handmade? How do you continue having
So how many SKUs, how many units do you have in a day?
We have about 50 to 55 different SKUs through the year.
Okay, and in terms of actual volume, pieces of product in a day?
Pieces of product in a day, we will be producing anything close to, let's say, about 70,000 units a day across different SKUs.
So how do you do this handmade?
It's possible to do it handmade.
How many people on the factory floor are doing this?
We, in our factory in Ahmedabad, we have close to about 180 to 200 people who are working there. Obviously, we use some version of automation. I mean, it's not that we don't use automation, but breads or the shaping is still handmade. And this is what I was trying to say. For us, from day one, it made sense to do it like that. So when we were growing, we had to only multiply this. When a legacy player comes who's only used automation, for them to go back to this, it does not make financial sense. So they would say, listen, it does not make financial sense, we're not doing this. We do this business not necessarily to make financial sense always. It also has to, I mean, why is a consumer paying for you? Because you have to do this. If you don't, then why will they come to you at all? So that bit is something that we've been able to retain.
So how do you scale from here? Because this is
Yeah.
the question mark in every founder's journey. You stumble upon a great idea,
Yes.
it works, something clicks, steam happens, you catch the wave at the right
you
time.
adapt a lot. You adapt a lot, and you should be willing to change your answer. To give you an example, we started in Bombay making bread. We and then started selling bread in Pune because Bombay is so close to Pune. Then we wanted to sell bread in Bangalore, but Bombay, we were air freighting breads to Bangalore as an experiment. Obviously, the experiment worked in the sense where consumers liked it, but the logistics did not make sense. Then we said, all right, how do I centrally manufacture breads? Because that's the only way I, at that point, felt I would have control over quality and supply pan-India. So we did a lot of research within India and internationally and came up with the packaging technology, which was going to let us be clean label, make a high quality product and sell pan-India. So that is what we adapted in 2018 and put up this manufacturing in Ahmedabad. And we did that for close to about 5 years. Now you want to, but it costs money to do this, right? It costs money for central packaging, central manufacturing, dispatching it to all different cities. In 2022-23, we said, okay, now a consumer is paying for transport and packaging, which is not a value add to them.
Yeah.
So how do you solve this problem? And you want to be able to feed more people. So that's when we said, okay, let us have more local manufacturing. So in 22-23, we shifted to having a factory in Bombay, one in Hyderabad, one in Delhi. And these breads get locally made over there. So we keep adapting like this. What is our North Star is customer ko wahi product quality milni chahiye when we were making 25 loaves a day.
How do you scale now from here? How will you scale further? What's next? New product categories? Will you go more
So
mass?
how the business has followed one philosophy from day one. Is first is I want to be a grocery item. Second is whatever grocery item in this universe of baking is there, which although we started with breads, we went to cakes and cookies. The product ethos is let me take away the nasties of that category. For bread, a lot of this was maida nikal do, palm oil nikal do. Bread is also very unhygienically made, right? So we said that must be there. Then we add certain goodness to it. So for bread, for us, it was sourdough because sourdough is not just fancy sounding, it's great for your gut.
Is it really?
100%.
No, so there is a lot of debate on it. Bread is bread at the end of the day. And gluten is not everyone's friend right now. It's got a bad reputation.
So there's good quality sourdough and then there's bad quality sourdough. You can make sourdough and skimp on steps and claim it in sourdough, and then someone like you who will eat it and be like, mujhe to kuch difference nahi dekha, because actually kuch difference tha hi nahi. Then there is someone like us who's been drilled by my chef that you must make it following these steps, and if it takes time, you take time, it doesn't matter. And we've had a large chunk of consumers who come back to us and say, you know, this bread खाने के बाद जो bloated gassy feeling आती थी ना, जब मैं आपकी bread खाता हूँ मुझे ये नहीं होता. Instead, until you have celiac disease, a lot of people who don't want to eat gluten because how their body reacts, a big chunk of them will be able to digest a sourdough from the baker's dozen. But that's because of the way we make it. And we have been very sacrosanct about never. Scale cannot let you compromise on that way. That never happens.
So would you say that your category is healthy at all, or is it healthier? At the end of it,
it is healthier.
It is cookies, it's cake.
Exactly. Like I said, we are not here to... See, my belief is nothing is as healthy as homemade food. And I don't think there's anyone out there who can deny that reality. Anything which comes in a packet cannot compete with that. What we're trying to do is you wanted to indulge. You wanted to eat a cake. You wanted to eat a cookie. You wanted to have a bread. And I know you can't make these things at home, so let me make it for you healthier than whatever you would have had naturally. So when you would have had a cake, it would have been loaded with chemicals and emulsifiers and colors and essence. I have removed all of that and put only whatever the natural fruit for that cake is. In breads, we've removed maida from that. In these snacks that we do, like we make ragi crackers, we are making protein chips, we've removed... Chips' ki biggest problem is it's potato, it's fried. We removed all of that. So it's not potato, it's not even maida, it's all millets, it's all pulses, it's not fried, it's yummy tasting. So we are in this guilt-free indulgence. We wanted to indulge. And we're not saying this indulging is healthy. It is healthier than what you would have normally had.
So how many days a week, say, at home, are your products being consumed by you and your family?
Every day. Instead, I think between my dad and my kids, they are the biggest evangelists of Baker's Dozen. We consume a ridiculous amount of bread. The bill that's made in the office in my name, we might be the highest consuming ones. And again,
that's not a great business strategy to be your own biggest consumer.
No, because the way I've always thought about product development is, especially since 2016, which is when I got pregnant, is this something I'm going to feed to my children? Only then can I think of making it and feeding it to India. You know, when I say मैं चाहती हूँ पूरा India bakers doesn't खाए, first question is, would I feed this to my child? If yes, then I have full conviction in marketing it, feeding it to the rest of India. And it's that North Star which does not let us skimp on any steps just because it would make more business sense.
So as we wrap this conversation, Aditi, and it's great to have you here, to a lot of people who are looking for that one idea, and they may be couples, they may be individuals who are in that phase that you were in several years ago, where you've decided कि नौकरी तो नहीं करनी है,
yes,
business करना है, and you're looking for an idea. What are the steps to do that?
First thing is just jump. Whatever idea you may have, don't wait for that perfect idea that doesn't exist. Whatever idea you have, just take and jump and start. And everything else will go from there. Second is, once you start, you are going to probably face more failures than success, but just be at it every day, every day, every day. Eventually it will crack.
Okay, on that note, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you for having me.
And answering all of our questions. It was great to hear your story.
Thank you so much.